I could have some information, because it's not things that I normally ask you when we're talking on the phone day to day.
In other words, you're being nosy.
I'm being very nosy. I want to know, when did your parents, were your parents born in the United States, or when did your grandparents come to the United States?
Both mother and dad were born in the United States.
They were.
Their parents came from Norway.
What, do you know what year about they came?
Oh, I really don't know that.
Don't know.
18, in the latter part of the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your parents were both born here too? And your grandparents were the ones that came from Norway?
Yes, but I don't know.
You don't know about.
I don't
but
know
about the
the
same time, you would think.
Probably.
Okay. What did your dad do for a living? What did Grandpa Hans do for a living?
When he was in Rushford, Minnesota,
Is that where they first settled?
that's where he was at.
Oh, I didn't know that.
On Wynona.
Uh-huh. I'm familiar with that.
He was a farm boy.
His parents had a farm there?
Yeah, he had a farm. He somewhat had a early start in farming. He took the responsibility of the farm.
Because his father
His parent died.
His father
Oh.
died, not his parents.
What was his father's name?
Oh dear.
I'll put you on the spot.
You know,
That's okay.
I really can't tell you
That's
the
all right.
truthfully.
Okay. But his dad
I
died.
think it was Oscar. I think it was Oscar.
But his dad died, and then Grandpa Hans took over his farm.
He milked cows and whole.
Because he had 3 sisters, no brothers.
So he was the only boy. So the responsibility fell on him.
And tell about how he came out to Montana.
Well, Chris Grillon, Uncle Chris came first.
To
Naval area.
Montana.
And that's why Hans decided to go there?
And they homesteaded, didn't they?
Yes, the homestead.
See, they could file a claim.
See, Chris's wife was Dad's sister.
Oh, so they were doubly related.
So
Sure.
Clifford and Bob Grillon and myself, are double cousins.
Well, you don't find that very often.
See, my mother and Chris was brothers and sisters. My dad and Chris's wife, mine were brothers and sisters. So we were double cousins. Actually, brothers and sisters. When you get down to
Yeah,
it.
just about,
You
sure.
would be, yeah, same.
Yeah.
same.
Oh, that's funny.
I came out here and, they homesteaded.
Filed homestead claims.
So then they got the land for free?
They had, then he acquired land after that.
Uh-huh.
But their farms were only about a mile apart.
Oh, interesting.
They're not up to the farm.
And then both of them moved into Vancouver and became businessmen.
Oh,
Chris
yeah.
had a coast-to-coast run. And Hans had a lumberyard.
Dad was a very creative person. He's an inventor. He invented the first 3-speed transmission.
He did?
Not in Minnesota. He whittled it out of wood. The gears, 3 gears.
Uh-huh.
And the gear was just changed to a different size, and that's the speeds. And that idea hasn't changed. The principle hasn't changed to this day. But I had the old mechanical drawing, and it's been misplaced. Old type, square type, from the patent office, and they encouraged him to patent it. $40, and he didn't have $40, and he didn't think it amounted to anything. And it probably wouldn't, because after 17 years, my experience with that
If
is,
he had, we might have been millionaires.
well, 17 years to public domain, and it didn't, usually the Industrial Revolution is such that 17 years go by and they perfect it, and then by that time the little inventor gets nothing anyway. Big industry.
Oh. Well, when did he get married to Grandma?
1950.
In Minnesota or out here? In
Minnesota.
Montana?
I was born in Rushford, Minnesota.
I didn't know that.
See, in 1920. And the winter of 1919, December and all that, was a real tough winter. And there were no doctors hardly out there. Apparently, she went back to Russia. That I was born January 20th.
No
And then
kidding.
later on, she came back up here.
Uh-huh.
She also had an appendectomy when she was pregnant.
I did know that. And didn't, was it Connie that did? Oh, somebody else did.
And she had a
Gallbladder operation when she was pregnant.
with men.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting coincidence, isn't it? And what child were you? What number?
3.
You were number 3.
Clarice, Harris, myself, and Bob, and Billups. Bobby, I said Bobby.
Yeah.
And Betty and then.
Betty.
Betty and Donald's the baby.
And Donald.
He's the baby in the family. So,
Donald and I are the only ones, the boys.
so when you were, all you kids were born, was Grandpa farming, or was he, when did he start running? Did he run a lumber yard?
No, we didn't start in the lumberyard until, I think, in the 30s sometime.
Uh-huh.
No, we were on the farm all the time. They would thrash, and those days with thrashing machines,
Uh-huh.
bundle haulers. Dad had an old Rio truck
Who's here?
with just chain
Who came
drive.
first?
Well, Camille's here, so we're going to take a little break. So,
Put it on record.
and we return with the thrashing machine.
Well, anyway, thrashing was a big item, and, people, farmers got together and thrashed for each other. Well, Dad, his Rio truck, put we call it a cook car, a building on it. And he had a window in it, and he'd drive it, the whole thing over to a place, and we'd fold it up, and tables we got out, and the men would eat there. It was a portable. Drove it with,
Oh, neat.
Well, who did the cooking?
well, they had cooks,
They did?
yeah. Well, mother and the other hired girl, Tordine Lucken was working there, they had, and also there were, whoever they were thrashing for.
Uh-huh.
But they had quite a crew with it. Many
They
men.
used to call them thrashing bees.
Thrashing bees?
No.
Like a quilting
There
bee.
were no combines, they were just thrashing machines. Horses pulling bundle racks around thrashing.
So how big was this farm?
Well, at that time, I don't think you had over a section of land.
Really? I don't know.
All you could file the claim on.
I don't know what a section of land is. How big is that?
640 acres.
That's
1
pretty
mile
good.
square.
That's pretty big. Wow.
But then, he ended up with close to 3 sections.
When did you start helping around the farm? At a very early age?
Well, I think I remember when I was 8 years old, I was milking cows.
Not like today.
When Harris was 9 years old, he was driving a truck around the farm. We had a lot of responsibility.
He would sit on a box. See over.
But he was too little to see.
Also, I remember distinctly, we herded cows a lot when we had horses. I thought I was a cowboy.
You better tell
I
that.
knew I was a cowboy then, I'd stand up on a horse, get gallop, bareback as hard as you go.
At 9 years old?
I could do that, no problem.
Whoa.
One time we didn't have enough horses to go around. Some of the neighbor boy came by, or some of the town kids came by. And we had an old workhorse called Eagle, and we didn't have saddles, so I put a leather strap around the belly, and I made some hoops and put some clamps for my stirrups. But they was loose, see? And we were going at a dead gallop, and all of a sudden the Eagle wanted to turn into the gate, and I went right underneath the belly and threw it. Funny, we weren't killed. But We lived-
Oh, wasn't kidding.
But it was a good thing, yeah. You wouldn't be here to tell the story.
We had a horse called Dolly, and she was a racehorse, and she always wanted to be ahead, but with us kids, she was gentle as could be, but if it had grown up on her back, you could hardly hold her.
Okay.
With us, she had real care, she was real careful.
Better tell the story about that horse that,
Well,
That's
Mother and
true.
Dad went back to Rushford, I think, for something, and see, now, I had a one-year-old horse that I owned, and she said, and I had ideas I was gonna break it. She said, now, don't touch that horse until we come back. I didn't obey. And we out the pasture there, and it was another farm called the Peterson place. And there was an old barn there, and I roped the horse and brought her into the barn, tied her up. I thought of all the cows, we had to get them, so we got them in. When I came back, the horse we didn't change the slip knot on the flare yet, and she'd gone down the manger and choked herself to death.
Oh.
So when Mother and Dad came back, I thought, they, to this day, they never mentioned she was glad the horse did instead of me.
Oh.
I was very old.
I bet you were scared what they were going to say.
I was
that was his
concerned.
horse.
Because
It was his
Dad,
loss.
Dad's way of discipline was, if you did something wrong and you had a whipping coming, spanking coming, he could wait till the next day to do it. And it was a punishment to wait till the next day. He knew you were going
You
to
never knew when you were going to get it.
It was a little
He didn't make you go and cut your own switch or anything,
Yes.
did he?
Yes. He did that for me. I remember getting one brittle one, and it broke the first time, and he made me get another one.
You tried to pull one over on him.
But he didn't want to spank us when he's angry.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah. But we knew if he promised to spank him, we did it.
You think you got your fair share of whippings?
Many.
Many. Well, what were your responsibilities around the farm when you were little?
Milk the cows, feed the pigs, hoe the trees, hoe the garden, cultivate the corn,
You did all
all the time. Summertime, we were so busy all the time. My brother and I, Harris.
Well, I heard you had to scrub the outhouse, too.
Well, that was when I was real young. I didn't know how old I was there, probably 6 years, 7 years old. I don't know, very young.
You got that rotten job.
I had to scrub Saturday. I remember Saturday, I had to go down and scrub all the stairway down the basement, and I had to go out the outhouse. I don't know if it was a two-holer or just a one-holer.
Well, only the rich people had two
I don't
holders,
think I had
right?
a ring around the eave. I mean, a hole. I don't
You'd
remember.
have a moon in the door.
I don't know, half moon in the dark. I don't know. Forgot.
Oh, that's
I know
funny.
there were monk on the ward cattle.
When you were older,
Not Sharman.
Not Sherman?
when you were older, did you have to cut the heads off the chickens too?
Well, my brother was,
Tenderhearted.
I didn't like to do that. But I forced myself. Somebody had to cut the head of the chicken off. To eat, have dinner.
Yeah?
I was the one that had appointed to do it.
Oh.
I was forced to do it. I mean, I forced myself to do it. I mean, the others said, I don't want to do it.
I wouldn't want to do it either.
Well, it bothered me, but I...
That wasn't so often, was it? Was that very
Well,
often?
Sunday dinners.
Every time you had to have it?
Every time you had chicken, you didn't go to the grocery store.
Yeah. Mother, there was a lot of cooking, that's all it was. Canning, cooking in the fall. We put away everything, canned all our meat for the winter, garden stuff. They canned everything. We lived well.
That's a lot of work.
She made mincemeat in crocks, in 15-gallon crocks.
Well, no wonder you like mince pie so much. You had to eat a lot of it, I bet. Big crock.
Pie was real meat in that. You don't have that now when you buy it. It was real meat.
What kind of meat?
Beef,
Really?
chopped up, yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I always thought it was just
mincemeat,
food.
it was meat then, you bet. That was real good, mincemeat. You don't get the mincemeat like that anymore.
No?
So, it's different times.
Yeah.
But we had a farm that we had
You have to put
electric
potatoes.
lights, we had running water.
Pretty fancy.
I can tell you a lot about we put in that water system. And, fellow by the name of it skips my mind right now. But
Didn't
they
the
got,
lights
they had
run
got
on?
close to the house and they had drilled a hole for the rest of the way, for the pipe drill, just a small pipe. He went down in the trench to look and see, and all been caved in on him. And he lay there, and they were trying to dig him out of the sand, but he kept real still. As soon as he moved, the sand started coming around his, he could breathe through that hole.
Oh.
And they saved him, but if he had moved too much, he'd have come down and smothered him, around his,
I don't remember
he
what
lived
that
like
was.
with his hands over his head, but they had a little spot they could breathe through.
Did the electric lights, were they powered by Delco batteries?
Yeah, we had 32-volt battery.
Battery powered electric.
Well, that's enough. What about her?
All right, then we'll go back, we'll go to your schooling, okay? Now, where did your parents settle? Where did they live?
In southern Minnesota also.
On a farm or on a farm? And your dad farmed? And what did your mom do?
Well, my mother grew up on a farm, but then she went to normal school and became a school teacher. And then she went to Minneapolis and went through nurse's training. Then she graduated from Swedish Hospital in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long she was a nurse. They got married in 1915.
1915? And you were born,
March 28th. I was born in 1921.
and what number of child were you?
I was 4.
Fourth? Who was older than
Reuben
you?
and Rachel. But Rachel died of pneumonia when she was 18 months old, and then it was Ruth, and then it was me.
So you were the baby?
No, then it was Rosalie, and then my brother Gordon, who died when he was about 7, I guess, from infantile paralysis, and then Roll was the youngest.
What do you remember about the farm? What did you have to do?
Oh, I think take care of the children that were younger than me, mostly, and help with dishes mostly.
Cooking?
No,
No, you didn't have to do any cooking?
not when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
until I was older.
Where did you go to school?
Country school.
Country school, one-room schoolhouse kind of thing? And how many years did you do that?
Walked to school. Well, till I was about 9, and then when my parents died, I went out to Estelline, South Dakota, with my Aunt Dora and Uncle Henry. I went to country school out there too. It was a 2-room school, but there were so few children that we only had school in 1 room. So then we had another room that we could go and play games and so forth. It didn't have school desks in it.
And you graduated from that
In 8th
school,
grade.
8th grade?
Then went to high school in Estelline, South Dakota for 2 years. And then for 2 years I went to Oxford Academy in Canton, South Dakota, just south of Sioux Falls, where I took shorthand and typing and,
Did you have to live in a dormitory?
yes.
So
I
it was
lived
kind of
there
like
for 2
college,
years. Yes, it was.
away from your family and everything?
Uh-huh. And then as soon as I learned shorthand and typing well enough, then the president of the school had me work in his office, and then that was credit on my room and board bill, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I took dictation and typed his letters and everything when I was just a senior in high school.
Wow.
And right out of high school, I went to Minneapolis and got a job in Minneapolis.
And what did you do?
Supported myself. Well, among other things, I worked at a bank, Northwest National Bank, downtown, the branch downtown.
Well, you know, I worked for the holding company for that bank
Yeah.
in Minneapolis.
And I also worked for a stained glass studio for a while, receptionist.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked in the church offices. It's actually the same building as Oxford Publishing House, but it was actually in the church offices, headquarters of it was Norwegian Lutheran Church of America then. And that's where I met Clarice Smithton.
What was she doing there?
She was doing office work.
She worked at the same place?
Uh-huh. She worked there longer, so she had more responsibility than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I did mostly typing and filing and writing letters, answering mail, things like that. And that's where I met your dad.
Didn't you have an apartment with 3 other girls or something?
Apartment with 3 other girls.
And one of them looked just like you?
I don't think so.
No, you told.
Oh, Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Helen People, who later married Harold Nelson. Well, she and I were about the same height, we were often mistaken for sisters. We
That's what
didn't
it
look
was.
that much
Okay.
alike, but
Mhm.
yeah.
And
that was quite an experience.
where was your apartment? In the
1810 Columbus.
Columbus?
1810 Columbus, yeah. Just real close to where the Sister Elizabeth Keddy Institute is now.
Oh, sure, I know where that is.
Do you?
Mhm.
I think it's mostly black population around that area now.
Yeah.
It wasn't when we lived there. But we rode streetcars and didn't have any cars, you know.
Didn't have any air conditioning either.
No, we didn't.
What'd you do on the hot summer night?
Well, we took blankets and went and laid out on the lawn and slept a few nights.
Can you imagine?
Which would be dangerous now, I wouldn't ever dare.
No.
But see, there were two buildings exactly alike with a vacant space, or, you know, vacant lot between them.
Mhm.
And so we felt we were kind of sheltered. We did that a few times. I don't think that was very many times. But pretty down, but
Well, not safe now, but.
no, it wouldn't be safe now. But those were different times. That was in the early 1940s.
So did Clarice introduce you to Daddy?
Bob and Leonard came down on a motorcycle from Concordia College to visit her. And I got taken around Minneapolis on a motorcycle.
You drove a motorcycle, Daddy?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I
And one
used
time
to-
they'd been down to Minneapolis to visit Clarice, and Bob and Leonard drove a motorcycle clear out to Montana. And Bob said he was driving and Leonard was sitting beside him, and all of a sudden he felt he was falling off, and he reached back and kept him from, felt Leonard going to sleep and falling off the motorcycle. He leaned back and saved him from falling off.
That's a long drive on a motorcycle.
I bought that motorcycle from the, for the purpose, I should say, rather, of going back and forth to the airport, Hector Airport at Fargo, and I rode to Concordia. I took
Oh.
flying lessons on the CPT training.
What's CPT training?
Civilian pilots training, under the military rulings, that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
And then I took navigation and meteorology and all that in the college course too. Before I entered the official Navy.
And you enlisted when you were how old?
I was 20.
He was about 22.
Well, I'd be more 21 or 22 in that area, 21.
So when you met Mom, you hadn't enlisted yet?
Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, I was taking CPT when we went to visit you. That is that camera on?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's still taping. I mean, I'll edit everything, so just talk normal.
Yeah, it's so many years ago.
So how many years did you go to Concordia before you?
Well, I stayed out 1 year
1 year?
out of high school, graduated in 38. In the fall of 39, I went to Concordia. So I'd be in the graduate class in 1943.
Mm-hmm.
I went a little better than 2 years. You had to have 2 years to get to the Navy Air Corps. And I enlisted. And I already had my pilot's license, so I skipped some of the training. Pre-flight, went right into pre-flight.
Oh.
And
Which base were you, was it Old
I went
Chamberlain
to,
first or
I
Iowa
went to
City?
Iowa City
Iowa
first.
City first, yeah.
And there they made you into something, or they broke you down to nothing.
Oh.
You'd swim 4 hours or you'd drown.
That sounds hard.
With your clothes on half the time, with your clothes back on. Not in shallow water, but in 14 feet of water. You're in the Navy now, they said. You have to go out and swim.
Sink or swim, yeah.
We'll be out there in only water. That's all we had, water.
Well, so when you went to Iowa City, you were still in Minneapolis? You hadn't made plans to get together then yet, huh?
I took a bus and went down there, and a girlfriend of mine who had her boyfriend at Iowa City took a bus down there and spent a weekend down there one time.
Oh.
So we got to see them all marching from building to building, and see them all, all these people in their uniforms.
Uh-huh. So where did you go after that? Where were you stationed
Old
after
Chamberlain,
that?
wasn't it?
No,
Must have been.
we didn't do any flying at Iowa City. It was all
Basic.
training. They were putting us into shape. It was 5 below zero weather, and we'd march 12 miles. 6 miles uphill, we'd run, walk downhill.
Ooh.
I mean, any hill we come to, we'd have to run up, walk down. Many a person fell over frostbitten lungs. It just, you know, it's really tough.
That sounds like
I remember Bardo kicked a person. He was a real, he had a very good physique, and he was healthy and everything, but he didn't know how to swim. And the first thing he had to do was jump off a diving board, 14 feet of water, and it took a lot of, you know, willpower to do that when he didn't know how to swim, and he couldn't get enough nerve to jump. So Bardo came up there and pushed him off, and they wrestled a little bit, and he barely missed the pool edge, and he went down. And you let him drown. He went up and down, excuse me, he's drowning. When he went up, why you don't even up the line? You let him drown, and then he fished him out of there. Did artificial respiration, revived him, kicked him out of the Navy. That's the kind of training we were faced with.
that's pretty hard.
Yeah. He was court-martialed soon after that
I would
for
think
inhumane
so.
attitude towards cadets.
Oh,
I had broken ribs in wrestling. They'd take me all the way up around the whole, and they made me wrestle. And made me swim, and I just about had it. And then they gave us shots, and then I had 104 fever, and I was swimming in 40-degree water practically. It was cold, it was winter, and this building was just enclosure. It was frosted, cold, and I just thought I'd get out of the pool. And he said, "You're in the Navy now, and keep swimming." He said, and I just took one stroke at a time, kept going. When I got through, I was vibrating 1,000 vibrations a second, I believe, and went back to the room. Fever left me, I was fine. Just like that.
wow.
I survived it. I didn't know how to, I thought I knew how to swim when I went in, but I didn't. They taught you. Yeah.
Chris, cut right now.